Brandon Ingram is a 6'9" wing from Kinston, North Carolina, which is also the home to Jerry Stackhouse, whom you ought not mess with. He spent his lone season of college basketball at Duke University under the suspiciously youthful hair of Mike Krzyzewski. After a productive freshman year, Ingram was drafted second overall by the Lakers, so in his first 2 years of post-high school basketball, he's played for two of the more maligned basketball organizations in the universe. For some, that would be like being sorted into Slytherin and then going pro after a year to join the First Order.
Bow to the First Order!
Ingram's second-year averages were strong, scoring 16.1 points per game on roughly 6 of 13 shots, 39% from 3, and 5.3 total rebounds per game and 3.9 assists. He was a steady and, at times, heavily depended on producer for the Lakers and displayed a balanced skill set. This is The Leap, a series where we break down the NBA's next generation of could-be stars. Guys who have a lot of talent, a little experience, but still have questions surrounding their games. In part 1, we're going to take a look at what we've seen thus far and what we expect to see in the future from Brandon Xavier Ingram. Length is a powerful thing, but you don't have to take my word for it. In basketball, it's a tremendous tool in the right hands. Luckily for Brandon Ingram, length is among his greatest strengths. He's got a plus wingspan at 7'3" and an exceptional standing reach of 9'1". For reference, that's higher than Anthony Davis, and since 2001, there have only been 17 measured smaller power forwards at Brandon's height to reach above 9 feet. I'm surely not breaking news to you when I say that Ingram is also very lean, more Paper Mario than Mario 64. His proportions as a wing are interesting. He's above the league average height and below the league average weight.
It's unusual.
He's been a bit of a late bloomer, which I think is important to keep in mind when you're thinking about his development path. He's also got borderline comically long legs, and when he wears compression shorts, it just gets ridiculous. Although his motor is reasonably good, Brandon's not an explosive or quick-twitch athlete. He doesn't overwhelm anyone with speed, and at times he can seem like a sports car where the owner saved a little bit of money and skipped the sports suspension and the horsepower upgrades and things like that. He's an average athlete with above-average measurements. Rob Pelinka has gushed publicly about Ingram's ability to unfold at the rim, but that slim build can also cause him to do the opposite on both sides of the ball. A common strategy with Ingram is to try and take away that amazing stride length or wingspan by getting into his body. Ball handlers will often drive into his body in transition and get him moving backwards, negating his ability to protect the rim or make a play on the ball. It's like throwing a ball into a hanging sheet. A lot of its surface area is forced to shorten, and it's smaller as a result. Defenders often crowd Brandon's drive so that he's forced to either give the ball up or take a difficult angle to get a shot. Off the ball for Brandon Ingram, there are still too many instances where Ingram is either letting the offense off easy by keeping those absurd arms down or failing to be attentive as a help defender. But he's shown the ability to be very disruptive by digging out post-ups without fouling, challenging passing lanes, and breaking up lobs. He's got a lot of potential in that area.
Surprise, motherfucker!
That said, he's improved gradually as an on-ball defender in his first 2 seasons, and when he's locked in and focused, he has strong switchability largely because of that length, and I only expect that to improve.
Enough made me sad. Now I tell you, enough made me sad. Woo.
For this or that reason, enough ain't been said about Brandon Ingram as a playmaker. For a guy his size, I would even go as far as to say that he's a fairly exceptional passer with great vision. With that build, passing and vision would have to be accompanied by ball security and handle, and Ingram checks all of those boxes. For long stretches during his second season, the Lakers experimented with making Ingram their primary ball handler, and it was widely considered to be the best stretch of his young career. On top of that, he's even shown glimpses that his hoops IQ gives him an intuition of how exactly the defense is going to react. Brandon's drives or isolations can very often serve the sole purpose of getting his teammates easy looks. This showed up more and more as the season went along, and teams started to focus on stopping his penetration because of its importance to the Laker offense. Ingram's opportunity to be a primary ball handler for the Lakers was largely due to Lonzo Ball's absence, which was 30 games. 36.9 of Ingram's offensive possessions were in the pick and roll this past year, and even though his offensive efficiency efficiency in the pick and roll was only in the 24th percentile, that was invaluable experience that can be built on. I also get the feeling that his efficiency there will improve with strength, because when you're constantly fighting to maintain position, that can eat into your ability to focus on decision making. In traffic, kicking it out to set up three-point shooters, threading the needle with lovely pocket passes in the pick and roll, Brandon Ingram's baseline skill set as a creator is very promising. Brandon Ingram's offensive identity thus far in the NBA has been built around the fact that he's comfortable operating as a ball handler, like we talked about, and is a threat to get to the rim off the bounce as a scorer or as a playmaker. He's a capable but somewhat inconsistent shooter, which seems to be in equal parts due to his shot selection and footwork. The two could even be connected. Figuring out where exactly to assert yourself offensively is one of the more difficult things for a young player to learn from one level to the next. 33% of Ingram's field goal attempts were within 3 feet of the basket, and I'd expect that number to go down a bit as his career goes on and he expands his mobility as a shooter. Among the 2017-18 All-Star wings, each of them saw a decline in percentage of field goal attempts within 3 feet of the basket in years 1 through 7. Only LeBron's went the opposite way because he cannot be counted among human beings. I would love to see the Lakers use Ingram the way that the Orlando Magic used Penny Hardaway in the 90s, a big playmaking wing that could operate with his back to the basket, both as a passer and as a scorer. But only 3.2 of his offensive possessions this past year were post-ups. I'd be interested to see that go up. Shooting is, sit down for a second, a make-or-break skill in the NBA today, and Lakers fans are fortunate that their baby boy shows signs of imminent growth in this area. Here's a leap for you. Ingram's percentage from 3 went from 29.4 in year 1 to 39% in year 2. A nearly 10% jump. In 2018, 95% of Ingram's threes were assisted though, and he was most effective from the corner, shooting 45%. Shot mobility is the name of the game for Ingram going forward. He needs to decisively explode to wherever he thinks the shot is going to come from so that his feet are confidently and consistently under him. His uncertainty and indecisiveness is apparent at times within the offense, and I think that puts him in situations where he either has to bail on an ISO or take an awkward contested shot. It's one of the essential missing pieces for Ingram as he attempts to join the All-Star discussion, and seeing as he's already an especially effective player attacking closeouts, I think that it'll make him that much more of a headache to deal with. This is really random, but did you guys hear about LeBron James? You know, 6'8" guy, built like a tank. People joke about his hairline all the time, take to the skies to more or less grovel for his services. Yeah, that's the guy. Well, he's on the Lakers now, and that's some serious contextual healing for Ingram, because his strengths, catch and shoot, off the ball movement, fit so well with LeBron, it's very likely that he'll fit beautifully into the gravitational pull of the best and most balanced basketball player currently walking the earth. LeBron was second only to Chris Paul in assisted threes this past season. In the myriad instances of Ingram being missed as a cutter, he's a great one, or lacking a versatile short roll man could very well be a thing of the past, and that's going to open up a lot of offensive opportunity for the Lakers. The 2017-18 Lakers are proof that there are obvious advantages to just letting your young core be young. They were the second youngest roster in the league, and despite some nagging injuries to key players, they still managed to go 35-47. So I think you're happy if you're a Lakers fan. You've drafted 3 guys that resemble, at bare minimum, quality NBA rotation guys, and they were allowed some time to mess around and be young, and now you're sending them off for an internship with the king. I've argued this in the past, but culture trickles down from your best players, and it doesn't get much better than having the best player. Granted, this will be the weirdest collection of veterans this side of the Suicide Squad, but it should be a net positive for Brandon. If you talked about Brandon Ingram from 2015 to 2017, you probably heard or said the word Durant within the first minute. Their hoop silhouettes bear an uncanny resemblance, but in reality, Durant and Ingram are distinctly different player types. It's a weird and pretty unfair, I thought this thing would be this, but it wasn't thing that we've done to his first couple seasons in the NBA, and it might contribute to his understated presence among the best young players in the league. So who is Brandon Ingram really? Is he a future franchise player? And I don't say this as a knock knock, and I don't see this as a knock, but probably not by my view. I think that he's a highly qualified complementary star. Is he a future all-star caliber player? I think that's highly possible, but there are some key variables to keep track of. First, that build. There's not a tremendous precedent or a clear blueprint for a guy like Ingram physically. It's a funny stat, but in the last 20 years has not been an all-star that's weighed under 210 pounds. Ingram's currently listed at 190, and precedent would tell us that 210 to 220 would be the sweet spot for him physically. I'm skeptical that we'll ever see thick Ingram, but some weight gain is crucial for things to get going where they need to go, in my opinion. But luckily, Ingram is still very young. Even in his second year, he was one of the 25 youngest players in the league, so that runway is long. Second, the assertiveness on offense. If Ingram adds shot mobility and ups his confidence to seek his shot, and that means floaters, pull-up jumpers, self-created threes, Brandon Ingram is a perennial all-star. End of story. At the risk of being a bad scientist, I'll say that that is a near certainty if that happens. Finally, the defensive attentiveness. That link begs, it pleads for defensive impact past just being a containing on-ball presence. If his usage rate goes down, it will. That means some energy can allocate to being a disruptive defensive force, both on-ball and in a team setting. If his strength and his weight go up, that'll improve his ability to maintain balance while he's getting screened to death off the ball and help him not get so tired fighting for position. So will Ingram flourish next to LeBron? Will he settle into his full offensive capability with better teammates? Will Rajon Rondo suplex Lance Stevenson at half court of the Staples Center sometime before Christmas? It's going to be a fascinating situation to watch, but I do think that at least two of those things are going to happen. Let me know if you agree.